Willie Mays. Okay, let me click on, got it. The other is Willie Mays. Willie, in my view, and I love, maybe not today, but another day, to hear what other people who are ball fans think is the greatest player of all time. My view, it's Willie Mays. If it wasn't for the fact that he was in the military in 52 and 53, missing 2 full seasons when he was 21 and 22, Willie, in my view, would have passed Babe Ruth without a doubt. He had 660 home runs. Babe Ruth had 713. He and Hank Aaron both would have passed him. Anyway, Willie said, "It isn't hard to be good time to time. What is tough is being good every day." And he also said, "I think I was the best player I ever saw." And you know what? I agree. I'm glad Willie agrees with me. And lastly, Vin Scully, the great Dodger broadcaster who passed away last year, who's inarguably the greatest of all time when it comes to baseball announcers, and maybe even announcers in total, because the guy did not just baseball. He did football, and I believe he did hockey, and he did, he was an amazing person, amazing broadcaster, and a good man. I had the pleasure of saying hi to him at my son Kevin's graduation. His grandson, Chad, was graduating, was in Kevin's class, and they were graduating. And the thing that was really eerie about Chad was how much he looked like his grandfather. He didn't sound like him, but he definitely looked like him. But anyway, Vince said, a man really determines himself by what he does. He also said, "I always say hi to kids. I always say to kids, don't be afraid to dream, because it can happen." Vin also said, and I lost it here on my little computer, so bear with me. It always works, guys, doesn't it? It always happens. You set something up and it just doesn't work. So here we go. Anyway, my thoughts of the day, or I should say, thoughts of the day of some great baseball luminaries. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Steve. I have a comment. I think that Willie Mays is one of the greatest players of all time, but my bias is Ted Williams. And Ted Williams missed 5 years due to the military. And his batting average when he retired was .344. And in the year that he was competing for the MVP with Joe DiMaggio, where Joe DiMaggio had that unbelievable hitting streak, Ted Williams was given the opportunity to not play in the last doubleheader. He was batting .399, 99, and they would have rounded it up. And Ted Williams said, "Up that, I'm playing," and he went 6 for 8 and ended up batting .406, and nobody has ever beaten that fabulous total since then. So that's my feelings about Ted Williams. Okay, we have the song of the day coming. Ed Gold.
Oh, thank you very much. Since we've been talking about baseball, 2 things to reiterate what Chris said. Williams was in World War II, and he was also in the Korean War.
Yep.
And he was fighting, on planes, jets going about 800 miles an hour. So you really have to know that a lot. With respect to Joe DiMaggio, one of my claims to fame is that I saw Joe DiMaggio hit a home run in 1946. Joe DiMaggio had a 7th grade education. He was not very articulate, and I defy anybody to give us a quote from Joe DiMaggio. Can anybody do that?
Well
but
said.
Anyway, notwithstanding that, let's sing "Home on the Range," where the clouds or sky is not cloudy all day. All we've been getting is sun. So it's a short piece and everybody loves it. Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam and the deer in the antelope play. where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Thank you, thank you.
Chris, you're muted.
Chris, you're muted. Now you're not.
We have Amber. Do we have, Amber, would you just like to say a quick hello to everybody?
Sure. My name's Amber Moncrief. I'm a speech pathologist and I live in Santa Monica. I have been with the downtown LA Rotary Group for many years. I began actually in San Francisco with the Castro Group. And since moving down here to the west side, I've been looking for another group to join. I've looked at the Palisades group and Santa Monica, and I've just been waiting to try you guys and see where the fit is. So thank you for having me.
Well, we're delighted that you're considering us, and we're going to consider you, and we look forward to meeting you in person next week.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, announcements. Peter Moore.
He had to leave, I think, Chris.
Yeah. Okay, Steve, can you give us a little more update on the Impact Club?
Sure, Chris. Of course, when you look at a ball player, you look at all 5 tools, not just one tool: hitting for power, throwing, running, fielding. So anyway, there's many things that go into determine what makes the best baseball player. But anyway, I'll get back to the question or your request. Anyway, yeah, we're moving along on the Impact Club. Chris and I had a Zoom with Patrick Longano the other morning. Got a lot more information that we're going to be using to start building out our Impact Club. We're very excited about how this is all going to play out. It seems using some of the tools that Patrick has developed as he's helped his own club and other clubs, 15 or so, it makes it real efficient and impactful, to use that word. So we're moving along. We're forming up a committee to start figuring out exactly how we're going to approach Rotarians, retired Rotarians or former Rotarians, family members that have shown an interest, and also people who are in our community who might be interested in being part of the Impact Club. Because again, as the Impact Club is envisioned, it is a service-oriented club where service projects will be the primary objective. But of course, fellowship is something very important that I think and everyone else thinks will be also developed as the Impact Club is launched and is quite successful. So things are moving along, and we feel it's going to be a real success, being the first Impact Club on the West Coast. Chris, I think that's it for now.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I somehow lost my feed.
Mr. President, do you want to do the joke of the day, or do you want me to introduce our speaker?
Now I'm going to do the joke of the day.
Okay.
This is has to do with old age. And these are some quotes that caught my attention. This is, old age comes at a bad time. Another one, old age is like a plane flying through a storm. Once you're aboard, there is nothing you can do about it. That's from Golda Meir. This is from Bill Dane. I'm so old that my blood type is discontinued. The older I get, the more clearly I remember things that never happened. Mark Twain. I'm at that age where my back goes out more than I do. I like that one. That's Phyllis Diller. This is from Lee Trevino. The older I get, the better I used to be. And I got two more that I like. I was thinking about how people seem to read the Bible a lot more as they get older. And then it dawned on me, they're cramming for their final exam. That's George Carlin. And the last one. To get back to my youth, I would do anything in the world except exercise, get up early, or be respectable. That's Oscar Wilde. All right. Ben, please introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Ben, you're muted.
Scott, good afternoon. We made you a co-host. I'm going to give you I'm going to introduce you. And then you can have our meeting for half hour and then we'll ask questions, okay? Okay. So Scott Kitridge and his wife Cindy are the owners of Otto Sons nursery in Fillmore, where they specialize in growing container, roses, and fruit trees for retail garden centers and landscapers throughout Southern California. They have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. Scott received a bachelor's degree in ornamental horticulture from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. He's a graduate of the California Agricultural Leadership Program, class 43. Scott has worked at the family nursery, Otto Sons, for over 37 years and is currently general manager. In his spare time, Scott has been on the Ag Advisory Committee for the Fillmore High School Farm for 30 years. He's the past chairman of the California Association of Nurseries and Garden Centers. Scott is the past president of the Farm Bureau of Ventura County. The family is also active in their church, Peace Lutheran in Camarillo. And Scott's presentation is Growing Roses in California Gardens will present ways to grow beautiful roses in your garden. And as a comment before he starts, we met Scott at his farm his nursery out in out in Fillmore. And I've got to tell you, both Chris, myself, and my wife, who's a landscaper, were just blown away. It is like if we were to transport ourselves like Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory, when you go into this Otto Sons nursery, you are in a trance because you cannot believe how beautiful it is. And Scott, you're an amazing speaker. I know you won't let us down. Go for it. It's all yours. Unmute yourself. You're muted. You're still muted.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm not real familiar with Zoom here. Can you all see my main screen says the big picture on it? We're
Yes.
good? Perfect. Okay. Thanks so much for giving the opportunity. I'm going to go through some things here. I'm hoping to get through them fairly quick and have plenty of time for questions. Let's see. Topics for today is I'll tell you a little bit about our nursery, where we come from, how to plant a potted rose. I get a number of questions on that all the time. It's just a good general topic. A little on summer pruning, and also something really important these days is how to keep your garden alive during a drought. We're all experiencing water issues, and it's a good topic there. And I got to talk some drip
So
and then some questions. If we have time, I took a few pictures this morning of our rose demonstration garden just to show you what that's like, because it's quite enjoyable to go through there. Our nursery was started by my dad, landscape by Otto. He did landscaping in the Los Angeles and San Bernardino Valley for many years, 30 plus, and then eventually had a nursery going in Chatsworth. That's where I grew up, was in Chatsworth, and moved to Sylmar, and then we came out to Fillmore in 1975. Our company primarily is a wholesale company. You might see our trucks on the highway. We ship down to San Diego and up to San Luis Obispo and occasionally the Bay Area. We go to San Diego, San Luis almost every week. So we're all throughout the Southern California area. We have about 35 employees. There's just a great staff we have here. The demonstration garden is about a 1 acre piece, 27 acres of nursery, primarily offering fruit trees and roses, and also perennials. We also have a Valencia orange orchard. It's about 9 acres. They're just actually out there today harvesting the oranges that'll eventually end up in the marketplace. And we have a great website. Our website is a really nice tool in that you can go in there and you can select different varieties of roses or fruit trees. You can select a color or maybe a fruit month or whatever when you want your peaches to harvest. And you can select those. It gives you a listing of what kind of fruit trees you can get, the names, varieties, and what we have in stock. So it's a really good, useful tool that you can go on our website to find there. We carry over 100 varieties of herbaceous perennials, 250 varieties of fruit trees, 700 plus varieties of roses, over 108,000 rose plants. All different kinds of roses, from bushes to trees to climbers, all different flavors. If it's available on the market, generally we carry it. Our calendar, we have a number of events we have through our garden shop that we do. In October is the next one coming up, 40% off all the roses. That's always an exciting time for people. They bring their lists in. In November, we started doing the day before Thanksgiving, a harvest day, in that we allow people to come into our demonstration garden and bring a bucket, and they can collect cut roses for their Thanksgiving table. It's been really popular. People come in and fill buckets full of roses and head home and make different kinds of displays for their Thanksgiving table. And then following that, right after Thanksgiving, we do a Black Friday sale, and that's been popular too. People like to come in and get that extra sale on a plant. We have classes in January that we do on how to prune roses and also how to take care of fruit trees. That's a prime time for that. And then in March, we do a Tomato Mania event, over 100 varieties of tomato seedlings, every color and shape you can imagine. And then in Rose Days are a big open house. We have that the 19th through the 22nd in April. And those are flowers are just blooming amazing. You'll bring their lunches and just hang out and enjoy the blooms. Of course, we have them on sale too. And then we do a class in May and June, kind of wrap the year up with what our programming that we do here. Let's talk about how to plant a rose. I get this a lot, and I just want to review it really quick. In that, let's see, if I move my mouse, can you see my mouse over here on the screen? So we shake. Okay, go shake it ahead. Perfect. A thumbs up. It's really important to dig a generous size hole. I see so many people oftentimes they dig a hole exactly the same size of the current plant, and it's nice to have a generous hole. You want to have about 2 times the width and half again as deep. This makes it softens up the soil, pulls out any rocks, and then when you after you have your hole, I like to see you fill it with some water and let the water drain away. Sometimes people will put a nice moist potted plant into a dry hole. And that dry hole sucks the moisture out of the root ball and causes root damage, which causes the plant to suffer. And these days, oftentimes with us watching our water, when we do go to plant, the holes are pretty dry to begin with. So fill the hole with water, let it drain. That gives you a good idea of your drainage capacity in that space. And then you can go ahead and then the soil you pulled out, you mix that with some rose planting mix here. And then of course you would fill the bottom up here below the pot to get this level. So at the top level of the pot is level or higher. If you make a mistake, make it too tall. You know, that's the important thing. You don't want the plant to be sunken down in that hole. So plant it, and then you'll have some extra soil. You'll take that soil and fill it around the sides, and you'll have it pretty level there. And then of course you're going to put some mounding on the outside, kind of like a big donut around the plant. And then you'll fill that hole, fill that basin, I should say, 2 or 3 times, just to get a good saturation of water throughout the whole profile of that area. Very effective, and that will give you the plant a good start to get its moisture in the soil and get a good start so it won't damage and keep going. Oftentimes a new plant like that, you'll water it like twice a week the first year, especially in the summertime. Obviously you would back that off in the wintertime when it's cool, and hopefully we'll have some rain. So that's how I would go about planting a plant. It's good for all different sizes and things that you would do in the yard. It's just a good method for getting the plant a good start. Let's talk a little bit about summer pruning here. Summer is a good time to go in and do a little bit of pruning, not a whole lot. You want to take out any branches that might be crossing, anything that's making anything that's on top of the other. You want to take one of those out, and then so that way there's space in there. Of course, sometimes you'll have branches that have died. You want to take those dead branches and trim those out. But the biggest thing is you don't want to make the plant naked. You want to leave some leaves and branches so that there's plenty of shade within the canopy. That's very important. Otherwise, during a bright sunny day, you certainly could get some sunburn on the soft green foliage in there. When you go in to make trimming cuts, you see some diagrams there. You don't want to trim it too high above the bud. This is a little bud that you'll always find. You see over here, see these little buds coming out there. So you want to trim it just above the bud, like you see over here in this photograph, just above that, maybe a 1/4 inch or so. And this is a little too tall, maybe that's an inch or so. This is too tight. What'll happen in the second picture here is that bud will die. This one over here, you got a kind of a wrong angle. This angle is too steep. This angle is too jagged. This oftentimes happens when your pruners are too dull. It just tears the stem right off. And otherwise, you have times when you've got you want to have about a 1/4 inch above that bud. Something else I want to point out is that bud that you find on there, when you cut just above it, that new branch is going to grow in that direction. So by looking and see where those buds are at, you can take a look and you can direct the new growth the way you want it to go. So by trimming it just above this bud, the growth will go to the right. But if you came down here and trimmed it down in this area, the bud will go to the left. And again, same down here, the bud will go to the right. So if you have a plant, you want to trim it so all the branches are going to the outside of the plant. You don't want to trim it so the branches go inside. That creates too much confusion within the canopy, and it creates higher humidity issues and potentially more disease problems. So trim to the outside bud, so those branches will go to the outside, and you'll have a much happier plant. The same technique can be used with shade trees, fruit trees. Look for those buds, those branches that are there, and you trim just above those, and you can direct the growth going to that direction, such as away from your house, away from a sidewalk, and that way you can trim those branches and actually direct the new growth where it wants to go. Let's talk about drought conditions and how you take a look at that. And I just read this morning, Simi Valley is cutting the water down to 15 minutes once a week per station in the yard. Do you guys have that situation down in the area where you're at yet? Are you in any kind of restrictions at all? Anybody want to let me know?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Anybody that gets water from the Central Valley Project, a number of water districts do, and they are restricted in that area, and having to cut back, required to cut back in one way or another. And if your water is from other sources, then you may not have those restrictions. So that's why you might see that there's some communities have more restrictions or less restrictions, because each of those communities have different water sources, and those different water sources require certain amounts of restrictions or not. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But generally speaking, it's always a good idea to cut back on your water. Saves you some money along the way. A big thing with watering is that in your plants is, I think, to use a lot of mulch. Mulch is really important, and I'm not talking about chopped up tires and gravel or just plain plastic. I like to use mulch that's some sort of a shredded bark, some sort of a wood product that you would put out there. By using mulch, it does a number of things for the plant. It insulates the soil, keeping it cooler, so you use less water. It will retains moisture. Also, as the wood product breaks down, it will feed your soil microbiology, which is really good. That helps feed your roots, and it prevents the weed seeds from germinating. Quite often, the weed seeds might blow in. They won't be able to germinate because of the wood product. And then also, if they do get a hold, they're very easy to pull the weeds out because they're just loosely rooted in that mulch. So 2 to 3 inches of mulch. If you're only doing a 1/4 inch just to make it look nice, it's cosmetic. You're not getting any benefit of all the other things as far as insulation, feeding your soil, preventing the weeds. So just so 2 to 3 inches. And in that respect, it's always how much to put down there. A good 3-inch layer will, in a 1 cubic yard, will do 100 square feet. So that gives you an idea of how many yards you would need. Now, the cheapest way to get it, of course, is many of the communities have green waste facilities, and oftentimes you can go and get that green waste and it will be free. Just bring a truck or a bin or a bucket and you can just collect what you need and take it back to your yard and spread it out there. But if you had to purchase it, many places have it in bulk. You can buy it. It's $40 to $90 a yard in bulk, or more convenient is to use a bag. But of course, bags are much more pricey. But then you can do a bag or two a week, and you kind of fill the area up and take care of it. So mulch, mulch, mulch. I can't emphasize how important that is to put a nice thick layer of mulch out there. And how much to water. I think oftentimes many people water just too much. Either they let their sprinkler clock run 10 minutes every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's a terrible way to water. You're wasting water, and it's not healthy for the plants either. So it's good to get something like that. There's a number of sprinkler clocks out nowadays that adjust the timing of the watering cycle with the weather. They actually hook up to the Wi-Fi of your home. They attach themselves to a local weather station, and they go up and down for the timing depending on how warm, how cool. They shut themselves down in the rain. Very effective and relatively inexpensive. I think most of the clocks are $200-300 a piece. Hooking them up is relatively easy, and you just let it go. I put one on my house. I found that I saved a whole lot more water at my water bill at home in the wintertime, but I did use more water in the summertime, but my garden looks much better for it. So that's how I would really encourage you to consider that. When I say how much water, water and weight, it's really hard to look at the, to know how much water to use on everybody's yard, because everybody has a different kind of system. And so I would suggest that you go through and to know how much to water, go out there and water your yard really well, and then shut your water system off. And then take a look and see how long it takes for the plants to actually wilt. You might find it takes 7 or 10 days before things start to wilt. In which case you can know that in those weather extremes that you had during that period of time, that's how much water was required. And then you can adjust your clock manually if you're doing it that way, plus or minus a few days to get to know how much water to go out there. You always want to water so you don't get any runoff. You want your sprinklers to be running efficiently in that you're not wasting the water. I do like drip irrigation in that it puts the water exactly where you want it. It's not going on your driveway or your house or the sidewalk and not being used in a useful area. So let me just, I have another slide here as far as just drip irrigation basics. You have a faucet. The faucet connects to some sort of a filtering system. In this particular one, we have a filter system here. You can see I pulled it apart here, so the filter is inside there. So you hook it up to the faucet, the filter comes through, and then there's a little reduction, so it reduces your pressure, and then it goes off to a hose. The hose can be just a simple brown line like this, and that you would attach different emitters, like you see up here. We have these flag emitters or these button type emitters up here. All of these would just puncture right in the hole. Or this is my favorite kind here, is the emitters are actually impregnated into the hose itself. So in this particular case, these emitters produce 1 gallon of water per hour. So you can have you just stretch the hose out. These emitters, I think, are 12 or 18 inches apart, and you just have those run throughout your garden. And then, so all along that hose, all along that pathway, you'll see that the water is just dripping out about 1 gallon per hour. These other types do the same kind of thing. They would just puncture into a solid hose, not a hose like this appropriately, but then you have a little little water coming out the side here or out the ends over here, depending on what kind of drippers. Many of the drippers come in different sizes, 1 gallon per hour, 2 gallons, 5 gallons. You want to kind of match up what you're doing, so that you get about, so you know how much water is going out at a time. And gallons per hour, then you would take and adjust the, you want to have about 2 emitters per plant, possibly 1 on each side of the plant. Of course, a larger tree, you would have multiple emitters all along the periphery of the tree canopy. That's where the roots are all out on the outside of the tree canopy. And then you would have them out there. Like for say a normal 5 gallon or a rose bush, you'd probably have 2 emitters on there, one on each side of the plant. Each one would be maybe a gallon per hour. So if you're in it for an hour, that's 2 gallons per plant. I would suggest that you run enough water so you get 4 gallons per hour. All right, so 4 gallons per hour. A lot of cities are going through now and they're saying, oh, you can only water 10 minutes per station per week. I think that's a ridiculous statement, because is it 10 minutes through a little straw, or is it 10 minutes through a huge pipe? So I mean, it doesn't tell you what you're doing. I think they're all trying to just tell us that we need to cut back. Many of the places allow you to hand water in your restrictions. They allow you to use drip irrigation. Some places allow you that. It depends on the recommendations of your local water people. But the biggest thing is don't waste water. When you have water, you want to prioritize to water your trees first. Trees will get the bulk of your water that you're having to use, assuming you've got to cut back more, and put the water on the trees. They took years and years to get to where they're at. So you want to keep those alive, keep those going throughout the season. And then the next tier down is I would water your bushes, your shrubs, things like that. And the last would be your lawns. Your lawns are easily replaceable, and let them go brown. And if they're telling you to only water your lawns 10 minutes a week or 15 minutes a week, just don't even bother with your lawn. You know, that's not enough water to keep them alive. And so I would just write off your lawn at that point and move on to just watering the trees and your shrubbery. Okay, with that, let's see, I got another 10 minutes. Perfect. I want to talk a little bit about our demonstration garden. I think the guys who were here, they managed to walk through our demonstration garden. Back in July of 2018, we took out orange orchard. These trees were well over 100 years old, Valencia orange orchard. So we went through with a tractor and pushed them all over the piles. We ended up burning them after they dried up. And that was July of 2018. Along the way, we did grading and irrigation and electrical and stuff like that. This is an overhead shot of the garden in 2021 of December. You can see the bottom here is our formal garden. Things are all nice in straight lines. This is a 1 acre parcel, the whole thing here. Nice straight lines, very formal themed gardens we have going on here. A nice grass area over here. Different things going on, but it's a formal garden. Whereas the top here, this is our informal garden. This section here had more winding pathways. We have a little pond going through here, a little creek coming across. We put a gazebo in here, but you can kind of see the pattern. So I want to show this to you just as we, just to give you an idea of what the garden looks like from above. The drone cameras are really kind of handy these days, that anybody can go out and do that. This is what it looks like today. I took these pictures this morning. You can see we've got the gazebo, little pathway. Plants are much larger. Very nice, serene area. You know, this is our on the right here is we call it a little grotto. Got a little fountain, a little bench, kind of tucked in there with some olive trees around it and some more Mediterranean type plants with rosemary, olives, figs, and of course roses, because that's what we like to specialize in. Lots of roses. We have a nice little meditation garden here with this mirror ball. You can sit there, and all around you it's our celebrity garden. So all around those roses are named after different celebrities. We have Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor, John F. Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe are right next to each other. Just so you know, that's okay. And then we have you know, Della Reese, Miranda Lambert, Henry Fonda, you know, just all kinds of named rows, Mr. Lincoln, Queen Elizabeth in that garden there. So we have that. On the right, we got a little fountain there and some other large areas of roses. That's kind of displaying how you can have a single variety in one bed, just to give a big impact on how that would look, rather than just have ones of each. Here's our other side of a garden, informal garden again. And this over here, let's see if I can get the mouse. There's a nice little pond here. We got a gazebo, little pond. This is a fairly new garden we just planted this spring here. Got that all finished. Back over in the back corner, we have a whole vegetable garden and fruit trees. Got a bunch of pears and peaches and nectarines and apricots. And my wife's got a raised bed garden back there with different kind of herbs and lettuce and stuff, and that stuff in season. On the right, back in the Mediterranean garden with olive trees and different kind of sages and ceanothus, persimmon on the side here. And that's it. Okay, that's all I have. How do I do for time? Let's see. Perfect. Good. We have time for questions. I'm happy to do questions. I do like questions. And if someone could help us with that.
Okay, would anybody like to ask Scott a question? Unmute.
What is your all-time favorites for maybe the top 5 roses or thereabouts?
Oh my, well, my favorite rose would be the Perfect Moment rose. I don't have a picture of it here, but it's a very, the color is a hot orange and yellow, very strong stemmed. And its biggest drawback, it has no fragrance, but it's just an amazing flower. When the sun's on it, it just looks like it's in fire. It's just a great rose. Perfect Moment is that one. Let's see, now my second tier. Let's see. I like Princess Charlene de Monaco. It's a fairly new rose, only been around for 5 years or so now. Princess Charlene de Monaco. It's kind of an apricot-y rose, great fragrance, lots of petals. It's a really nice one. Yves Piaget is another good one. Yves Piaget, nice pink, very strong fragrance, nice pink, lots of petals, very cupped looking to it. That's a good one. Let's see what else. Yeah, the top 3 for now. There's just so many. You start looking at lists, it just gets crazy because there's just so many great varieties out there. And always remember that anything of true beauty has a few thorns.
Thank you, Scott. A great talk.
All right.
Scott, what is the most fragrant rose that you have?
Most fragrant, I mentioned the Yves Piaget. I think that is one of the most fragrant rose. One thing interesting about fragrance is that the fragrance is brought about by the oils within the flower bud, and the sense, your personal sense of that fragrance is individual. So you may find it's just an amazing fragrance. Oh, I smell the sweetness or the musk or the rose scent. And your friend or spouse will just say, what? I don't find that at all. I smell more citrusy, so you'll get a different take on each flower with each nose, or each variety with each nose. So be aware of that. And the best time to check fragrance is in the morning, because again, I mentioned the fragrance is an oil, and the oil will evaporate throughout the day. So you get the oil strongest in the morning. So that's a good time to go out there and stick your nose in a flower and check it out.
Scott, I got a question for you. Thank you. Great program. Is there some non-evasive way or non-threatening way to keep squirrels away from your fruit trees? Do you deal with that at all? And trying to...
I've had a number of people have to work with taking care of squirrels, and you've got to be more, there are poisons you can use, but I don't like to do that. There are traps you can use. You can put traps with little cat food inside a trap, and you can collect the squirrels, ground squirrels, into the traps. However, when you do collect them, you've got to euthanize them yourself. Usually a trash can full of water, and you drown them at that point. It is actually illegal for you to take your squirrels or rabbits or skunks or possums or raccoons from your property and dump them on your neighbor's property. That is actually illegal. So when you do collect them in a trap, they call them humane traps. Well, it's not humane for the critter, because you're supposed to euthanize them at that point. So be aware of that. But with squirrels, I think you have to do barriers, some sort of screens or fences or something like that to get them out. The other thing is just a wildlife thing, and that is cats. Cats are amazing critters. They will go and kill squirrels. So you just maybe get some feral cats from the local pound or something. You can collect them. Neighbors have cats and feed them, keep them going. And you get some cats out there, and that'll reduce your squirrel population.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mark, unmute yourself.
Scott, how do you spell that fragrance flower? Etage, whatever you said.
Yves Piaget, Y-V-E-S. Yves. It's like, I think there was a perfume a while back. Y-V-E-S Piaget, Piaget.
Got it. Thank you.
Piaget, yeah. Yeah. If you go to our website, you can just Google Eves or Eves Piaget, and it'll pop up with some photographs there. You'll see it. It's really you can't smell it, of course, but it's a beautiful rose.
Yeah, question. Do you guys supply, this may have been answered earlier, I had to take a call, but do you guys supply roses for the Rose Parade?
We get that question all the time. If you remember, the Rose Parade, of course, is January 1st. They're all working on things in late December to get those roses all stuck on there. I've been down there to help them on times. But those roses all come from South America because that time of year, all the roses in the US have gone dormant, and so there aren't any available. There are some greenhouse grown ones, but most, I think 98% of all the greenhouse operations are all done in South America. They have long days, and they can have milder temperatures, and they fly those up here in cargo planes, and that's where those flowers all come from. Very few come from local, but that's a popular question.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, when I was at your nursery, I ran into some climbing, some tree roses. And I saw that you had two different varietals coming out. I think one was Julia Child and the other is a purple. Can you comment on that process? Because it's striking in my garden now.
Okay. The purple is ebb tide, I believe. It's a
That's
nice
right.
dark purple, good fragrance on both those for that matter. And roses, many roses, not all, but many are grafted, and which means they will take and apply a branch or a bud to a rootstock. And so what they've done in that case is they've grown a piece of rootstock up 3 feet off the ground to create your tree, and then grafted the two varieties to the top of that stem. And so that gives you two different varieties. Those two varieties in particular work really well in that they have the same kind of growth characteristics, and they will grow well together. Some varieties, one tends to take over the other. Those have they did some of those initially when they started creating these twofers, they call them, or doubles. And but most of the ones they have now are very compatible varieties. And that orange and purple of the Julia Child and Ebb Tide is just very striking to have the two colors. Purple and yellow are very complementary colors in any design, and they just look really nice. And some of the other ones they'll do is the iceberg, which is the most popular rose we carry. Iceberg rose is the white one you'll see planted everywhere. It has some sister plants, the burgundy and the pink, and they'll do those also on a twofer to have two varieties up on top. So just a couple unique kind of things, and they're kind of fun to have out there.
Yeah, I get a lot of people saying, are those both from the same plant? And it's, it's a fun. I have another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a very prolific pomegranate bush, and I thought this year was going to be my year. I must have had at least 100, 200 blooms on it, the little flowers, and they all fell off. I got one pomegranate remaining on the tree. So I know I've done something wrong, and maybe the tree just put all the energy into growth and not into producing the fruit. I'd like to know what your thoughts would be.
Generally speaking, when you get a swing like that, it's due to inconsistent watering. Either you watered too much and it was so happy it didn't need to make any fruit, or you didn't water enough, or maybe got a rainstorm partway down through the season that just saturated everything. With pomegranates, I would tend to think you probably water too much because they can take tremendous amount of drought and produce a lot of fruit. So take a look at your watering. I think that's probably where I would head first.
And what about, how do you prune it? Because it was 30 feet in the air and I've pruned it down, but what should it normally be?
It typically on a pomegranate, they will be 30 by 30. They get huge. So anything you do less than that is you're trimming them to control their size, making them more manageable. So certainly you can bring them down. I've seen them kept managed at like 8 feet, but it just takes a lot of work with pruning, getting in there and trimming them back and getting in the old branches out, that kind of thing. You would want to do that in the winter time is when you go through and do your pruning on those pomegranates.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I have one more question. I know that there's certain milkweed varieties that are great for butterflies. Are there any varieties of roses that will help to bring like the monarch butterfly in?
Any kind of flower will provide nectar for beneficials or pollinators, any kind of flower. Certain ones are more attractive. You'll see them like all the lantanas, the salvias, the milkweed. Those will provide the nectar for them. The milkweed in particular is used because they like to put lay their eggs on the milkweed, and then when the eggs hatch, of course, the caterpillars come out and they could have a food source right there for them. So that's why that's such a popular thing. And you're probably familiar with the tropical milkweed, which is the orange flowering one that has been sold quite a bit. That one in Ventura County here, they've actually outlawed that one because what they found is that tropical milkweed that has the bright orange flower and the dark foliage, that one tends to not go dormant in the wintertime. And there's a very small mite, a little small spider that is actually microscopic, and it stays on the plant and over winter on those plants that don't go dormant. Consequently, that little mite gets on the monarch butterfly larva, little caterpillar, and actually will kill and weaken the caterpillars. So they requested that all the nurseries not carry the tropical one anymore, and that they go with the native one. The native one is much less attractive, but it's more useful for the monarch butterfly in that it will go dormant in the winter time. So that gives a break in the life cycle of this little spider. And then when it comes back, of course, the population is not there and it won't affect the monarchs. So they're encourage everyone to grow the native monarch or the native milkweed plant versus the tropical one. So that's a long-winded answer to your short question.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Are there any other questions for Scott?
I want to say my son is very active in Rotary here in Fillmore. He just finished his second presidency here, and he certainly likes the organization. He really appreciates all that they do.
Well, Scott, we really appreciate you coming in and talking to us. I had a feeling that you'd be an excellent speaker, given the nature you held our attention when we heard you in the summertime.
Thank you.
And so thank you again. And then I'll hand it over to Chris.
Thank you, Ben. Just want to reiterate, I have a lot of over 40 roses in my yard. And it's a little humbling when you go out to Otto and Sons and you can't count the selection that's available to you, any color, any size, even shrubs, climbers, everything is there. And it's a selection that will surprise you as it surprised me. And what you see that's available is not all that's available, because they have acres and acres of where they're growing the roses that are still available to come on over and be sold. And when you see their private garden, it'll give you some incredible ideas for landscaping your own property. And they have picnic tables there. So if you can pick a time, probably when it's not real warm out there, I think that you will have a very enjoyable day. Thank you again, Scott.
And one other comment, Scott's wife, Cindy, is amazing. She is his better half for sure, 100%.
Yeah, she gave us a tour of the private garden, and
I'm
I'm telling you, no matter yeah, no matter what you say, no matter what you think you've seen the Arboretum, you think you've been to the Huntington Library and you see the gardens there, you're going to be surprised when you stroll through the private garden. It's something that I highly recommend.
Yeah, we're open Wednesday through Saturday, 8 to 4. You're welcome to come on out anytime then and take a look at things. Bring lunch, nice cool drink or adult drink, whatever.
All right, let's talk about next week. I think we're going to start early, so please, everybody, remember that. Steve Shear and I are going to have a question and answer process addressing retirement planning. I'll give it to you from the perspective of a CPA, a tax accountant, and Steve will give it to you from a wealth advisor. But the purpose of the talk is to bring to your attention proper planning, when to start planning, discuss your thoughts on how much money you have currently, what do you think you're going to need at retirement, how you're going to get there, what happens with your debt, how is that going to impact your retirement planning. We have a lot of salient subjects that we want to bring to your attention, and we hope you will find it most informative. So please remember, we are going to start early. Steve and I will take up at least 45 minutes.
Cool. Thank you.
With that in mind, does anybody else have anything they would like to say? All right, thank you for all attending, and we are adjourned.
Scott, again, thank you so much. You were delightful. I can see your background, how much you and your passion for roses and horticulture. Keep up the good work, and we'll eventually get out there because my wife is one of your clients, Paradise Gardens. So she loves your roses and uses them all the time.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that.
All right, bye-bye for now.
Bye.